intro video. I think we're going to end up doing that. I know we're live, but just for the audience, I think we're going to end up doing a really cool intro, like a hype video.
Yeah.
Where we all come on and we're like, let's go.
I think we need that, Matt. You know, my Longhorns are in the college football playoffs, and they haven't played well against Georgia, but UT is all about hype video. So I love that idea. So let's make that a New Year's resolution.
All right. You got it. You got it. New Year's resolution. By the way, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good day to you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We are the mighty three of Moor Insights and Strategy. Mr. Paul Smith Goodson. Wave for us, Paul. There we go. Mr. Will Townsend. And Matt Kimball. And we are the Moor Insights and Strategy Data Center Podcast. And we're here to talk about all things data center, fun, exciting, and boring. And not so exciting. So before we get going, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Hit the like and subscribe button, please, whether you like us or not, because we are vain and our egos need to be stroked a little bit.
We are analysts, after all.
We are analysts, exactly. We have big, fragile egos. Part two, don't take anything we say, especially Will, as a basis for making investments or otherwise financial decisions. We are here to give opinions, and this is for entertainment purposes only. As you can tell, we are very entertaining. So yeah, really, if do not take what we say and call your stockbroker or go on to E-Trade or whatever platforms you use. That would be a bad idea. We are at episode 34 of the Moor Insights and Strategy podcast, Data Center Podcast. And I went to look for some exciting and interesting facts about the number 34. Because, Paul, I know you like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It is a boring number. There's when you type in interesting facts about number 34, nothing comes up. It says, here are the first 10 anyway, it's like 34, 68, so on and so forth. Nothing interesting about 34. Not a prime number, not a square root, or not a fully square,
Something about every number. I mean, look at it. I mean, it's sequential. It's odd and even.
There we go.
Counter today, man.
Paul just knocking it out of the park, man.
Yeah.
Some are a little bit more interesting though, but 34 has nothing going for it. So I'm sorry.
It could be the number of a famous college or professional football player. I mean, I thought Tony Dorsett was 33 for the Dallas Cowboys, but
every number has that, right? So
True.
Paul Pierce was 34. But every number has that kind of association once you get up into the weird numbers. But what else do you get? Nothing. Anyway, so we're going to leave it at that. And we're going to jump in because we have a lot to talk about, and we're going to squeeze it into a quick amount of time. We are going to be talking about HPE, Google, AWS, VMware, Microsoft, storage in general. And then we're going to hit on the Ghost of Christmas Past as a kind of, I should have worn a holiday hat. But anyway.
Where's your headwear? I'm wearing my Mandalorian beanie because it's below 40 degrees Fahrenheit today. Paul's looking very sporty with his Nike running cap. Looks like he's going to go run a marathon, at some point. Wow.
I'm holding on to the last vestiges of hair.
I have none.
By choice, I should have none, but you know what? As bad as I look now, I look worse with a hat, so I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, we're going to jump right in, and the first one starts with Mr. Will Townsend. We're here to talk about HPE's earnings.
Well, there's been a warning. The Juniper acquisition close is pushed out, but for all the pundits out there that are trying to read the tea leaves on that one, the company stated that they didn't expect for the transaction to close until 2025, and then there was some momentum late in the year, but long story short, we'll get to that in a moment. But let's talk a little bit about earnings, and I know Matt and Paul, you'll want to add to this as well, but. Some interesting highlights. Number one, quarterly revenue rung in at a record for top line. And, guidance is so important to Wall Street these days. We've seen NVIDIA just get crushed, right, on kind of that area. But, from a guidance perspective, total revenue, earnings per share, and free cash flow for the fiscal year came in all above guidance. So that was super, super positive. However, my area of focus, one of my areas of focus, networking for the company was down. And this isn't anything that's unique to HPE. In general, networking infrastructure is down. But I believe when this deal does close, and most people expect it to close next year, and I think I've talked about this before, combining the engineering capabilities of both Juniper and HPE is potentially very powerful. And then when you look at the applied research that both companies are doing, certainly HP Labs, without question, is doing a lot within sustainability. Juniper has been focused as well on their Beyond Labs efforts. So I think that really uniquely positions them. And I did have with Patrick Moorhead, our fearless leader, have an opportunity to talk to Antonio Neri before earnings were announced. And, we talked about sustainable architecture. And Matt, if you remember at Discover earlier this year, the labs team was talking about that applied research. And boy, I tell you what, if HPE can kind of crack the code on that, because that's a big concern right now with these AI workloads, right? The energy consumption. I think that could really position them for future success. But what's your take? Because I know there's a lot of compute and storage that's wrapped up into this as well.
Yeah, super strong numbers. I'll go quickly and let Paul jump in with his take. Super strong numbers on the kind of server storage side. Server, I think, came in at $4.75 billion, I believe, 31% growth year over year, fueled largely by AI, fueled largely by NVIDIA. But their margins were up a little bit, so that was positive. And storage, which falls under hybrid cloud, so the hybrid cloud number was up. I think it was 1.5 billion, up around 19%. Strong growth, which is good because that BU had been down for the last couple of quarters, and it's something we had seen across all of the OEMs. So super strong numbers. The guide was very strong on both fronts, and they had some good announcements they made at Discover around storage as well. So a lot of good momentum that they have, and I think it's attributed to what you're saying. To they're just a company that is we talk about this all the time with them, right? They are the science project kids, and they do really great stuff. And what's happening now is we're living in an era where the line between science fiction and reality has become a lot shorter and a lot straighter. So a lot of what they're doing has a lot more relevance sooner in the market than maybe it did in the past.
Yeah, and I think what they're doing with silicon diversity as well is setting them apart from their competitors, their traditional competitors, and Lenovo and Dell as well. But Paul, what are your thoughts?
I just made kind of a general comment here about looking at large scale acquisitions and whatnot. Everything looks really good and everything, but when you've got R&D agendas, there's risk, there's challenges with integration, cultural alignment things you got to worry about. It's just a lot of things that you have to worry about that can go sideways. So it's just kind of a word of caution. Everything looks good. Usually, in my case, when something really looks good, something jumps up in the road and derails it. So, HPE needs to deliver on incremental improvements and some really differentiated solutions, I think.
Yeah, I do think the sustainability stuff is interesting. I think each one of the OEMs is going to have a really good play around sustainability. Lenovo talks up Neptune quite a bit. Dell is doing a lot around sustainability. HPE is obviously, Yeah, you're right. They've more and more they're kind of, and it's building in. But I do believe on the sustainability side, what's making it a lot more interesting to IT now is around cost savings, and freed up power budgets
Mm-hmm.
that were being consumed previously, right? So finding more ways to squeeze every watt or make best use of every watt. Saving Mother Earth is great, and everybody wants to do that. But the pragmatist in me says IT is driven by
CapEx, CapEx and OpEx savings, right? Yeah, absolutely.
So.
There's some big players in green computing right now. So.
Yeah, really are. Anyway, good chat. Let's move on to, I don't even have to ask who this is, a window on the multiverse. What the heck does that mean? We're going to find out.
It actually relates to Google's newest 105 qubit semiconducting quantum chip. There's some people that think that quantum computing is done basically through the multiverse, because, like, for instance, this one is going to take the test they calculated is that what would take this chip 200 seconds or 5 minutes to run would take a supercomputer like 10 to the septillion years. So that was what they actually ran on it. So there's some people that think that in order to do those huge calculations, it has to be done in parallel, and it's probably done in some type of parallel universe. So that's what that comment was. It was just kind of a interesting comment on what really is a big deal in computing. This new chip is called the Willow, and it's 105 qubits. And Google's got a long heritage of really good chips. They started with one called Foxtail in 2017, and they had the Bristlecone in 2018. And the Sycamore was really kind of the big jump. It was 2019. I don't know if you remember or not, but big issue about whether or not Google would actually achieve quantum supremacy or not. And that was with the Sycamore chip. So the Willow's got tunable couplers and qubits in it. And that gives it a little faster gates and operations and improves the error rates. And it's got improved coherence times from, I think the average before was like 20 microseconds. So it's moved up to 100 microseconds. But that's actually, even though it's microseconds, it's still a lot of time as far as superconducting qubits go. So the big deal is that the logical qubits can function below what we call the critical quantum error threshold, and they're using logical qubits. There's a lot of research going on in cubical and logical qubits, and that's where they've got an underlying base of physical qubits. They manage the errors as they occur and keep the logical qubits error-free. So that's basically it. But anyway, it's without going into a lot of details. It's really a good chip. It's done some amazing things, and I think there's a lot more things coming on the horizon. The underpinnings of this really, I think, came from the Sycamore chip, and that was created by John Martinez with his Santa Barbara team of students that work for him. And a lot of things is based on that. I've got a call coming up with John and on Friday. I want to know what his opinion is of this, because back 4 years ago when I talked to him about Sycamore, he described this chip perfectly, and he said it would be in 5 years, and here it is.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Paul, a couple of questions for you. First is do you see the work that Google does? And I know Microsoft has done some work, and I'm sure AWS has done some work. Maybe they haven't, but do you see all of this kind of research and work that they're doing as accelerating kind of the path for quantum, or is it more just their separate research projects that are going on and really don't?
No, I think there's a lot. I think a lot of this kind of goes together because Microsoft and Quantinuum, Microsoft and Atom Computing, and some of the other companies are working on this logical qubit scheme. I mean, right now, we're talking about 105 qubits, but the goal is for this one, just to give you an idea, there's like 6 different milestones that they're looking at, and they're going towards milestone 3 right now, and there's 6 of them. In the 6th milestone, that would essentially be 1,000 logical qubits, and underneath that would be 1,000,000 qubits. So that's kind of a long way away yet, but I think that we're getting close to the knee of the curve, and I think that a lot of this stuff is going to be accelerated over the next 5 years.
So let me ask you one more question. Does this have any impact on, I think of Google, I think of Microsoft and others, and there is the internal use of quantum that both of these companies and many companies will benefit from, right? Obviously. Is there a quantum as a service capability that kind of becomes available through these?
Yes, they've all got quantum. I mean, that's been IBM first came out with, I think, 6 years ago. You can dial up and access a quantum computer.
Did you say dial up?
Yeah, I mean, on cloud.
Like AOL, like you got mail, yeah.
56 kilobit modems.
You're going to need that 56K for.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
Is it a? But I mean, the market is so immature, right? I'm imagining that an IBM does this. It's really kind of a research play. I'm thinking like commercial kind of applicability, kind of,
That's what they're calling useful quantum computing. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's fully fault tolerant. It means that you can still do some really interesting research with this, and that's kind of the point we're at right now. We're coming over the curve a little bit, and we're starting to look at useful things that we can do in computation stuff.
Okay.
We're getting there.
Interesting. Right on. Hey, let's jump in because this is a good segue into the next topic, which is cloud and the kind of rise of the silicon giants, maybe the new silicon giants, if you will. So let me give a little context. I'm going to go very quick on this because you know how talkative I can get. Shut up. So AWS reInvent was last week. Marvell was this week. Microsoft Ignite was a couple of weeks ago. And they all removed Marvell because they're not a cloud provider, but both AWS and...
but they do provide silicon to hyperscalers.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. That's why I brought them up. They all kind of both put a huge focus on silicon. With AWS, it was Trainium 2 and Trainium 3, with some talk about Graviton 4. With Microsoft, it was their hardware security module plus Maya going into production, and a little bit more on Cobalt. And it got me, and Google has been in the silicon game for probably 15 years now. So it really kind of got me going on the thought of, are we looking at a tectonic, if you will, shift in the market where traditional silicon providers, while they are the mass volume, overwhelming majority of what gets shipped into hyperscale data centers today, are cloud providers becoming their own silicon shops, factories, and with the assist of companies like Marvell and Broadcom? It's interesting because, I'll use AWS as the kind of poster child or the use case, if you will, or case study. AWS, they started with Nitro back, I guess, about 10 years ago to do Nitro system, which did some virtualization offload and security and network acceleration. From there, they went into Graviton, back in 2018 or 2019. And in 5 years, Graviton has gone from, let's see if this thing will fly, into 50% of their internal workloads running on Graviton, and nearly half of their public-facing instances running on Graviton. That's huge, right? And they're kind of the leading edge of where I see this going. It's got a huge impact on AMD and Intel. That's part one. Part two, to what you mentioned, Will, about Marvell, they rely on third-party kind of custom silicon shops to build very bespoke and very custom platforms for connectivity, for networking, for security offload,
and also provide the software stack, because Marvell doesn't do that, unlike AMD with Pensando that provides sort of the whole stack with software and silicon, right?
Yep. So as these hyperscalers become, and they are the bulk of the consumption of this technology, it makes you wonder kind of what the path forward looks like. I'm not saying Intel or AMD are going away, or NVIDIA for that matter, but boy, it's really interesting to follow.
Yeah, if you look at AWS, the Trainium 2 and 3, I think they're basically saying, we're not just going to give you raw compute. We're going to take the lead on this.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're looking at, a combination of their AI accelerators and AI, driving some of this stuff.
Go ahead. Sorry, Paul. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead. I was just going to say, in Trainium 2, that's actually a Marvell, strangely enough. But when you look at Trainium 2 relative to what they have deployed in the cloud for training today at AWS, it's the H200 from NVIDIA. They're claiming 30 to 40% price performance advantage over. And when you look at Trainium 3, which will be Annapurna developed, so AWS internal developed from the ground up, they're saying it's going to be even orders of magnitude better than Trainium 2. Again, NVIDIA is not going away, but if Trainium 2 or Trainium in general becomes half of what they do from a training perspective, and Inferentia, which is their inferencing chip, follows suit, boy, this makes for really interesting dynamics moving forward. And it really makes you kind of wonder where the likes of Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, and others kind of what they evolve into to stay competitive in this space. Interesting, AMD did a custom chip for Azure. That was announced at Ignite, right? So they're seeing this kind of, this approach to got to be a little bit more custom and a little bit more bespoke to run in these clouds. So,
and I wonder, Matt,
customers get a lot of flexibility and lower, like you said, lower cost and more innovation, and they've got a smoother path.
Yeah, to me, it seems like it's an opportunity, because all of these, big public cloud service providers are, building their own compute, right? Because that's a big CapEx, savings for them. And then, taking that a step further with silicon, to Paul's point, there's got to be some CapEx goodness associated with that. But also, I would think, because each of these hyperscalers, they're good at certain things. And so a lot of customers go multi-cloud to get kind of the best combination of features. Each of these hyperscalers are building silicon that really accentuates and accelerates and optimizes what they're really good at, right? So would you agree with all of that, Matt, from a compute standpoint?
Without a doubt, yeah. There are very little, not little. There are knobs you can tune, but not just knobs you can tune. There are things you can do at the architectural level. How you kind of move data across the compute platform that can provide significant kind of performance gains for very specific workloads. And here's to what you're saying. AWS is building in and Azure and everybody else are building their own bespoke stacks. So if I can start at the silicon and design silicon that works very specifically with this OS and this virtualizer and this hypervisor I'm putting on top of it, and I can and for the applications that are going to sit on top of there, if I can deliver 5, 10, 15% performance gain in that instance, and I can save money on manufacturing, and I'm saving a few, even if it's just a few watts per chip, when you multiply that times the millions of chips deployed, you're talking about saving almost a data center's worth of power by doing your own silicon. The ROI is there. Obviously, it's there because that's the reason everybody. This is not we want to be cool and we want to be smart and do our own silicon. All of these cloud providers are going hard down this space because there is a lot of money you can save and a lot of value you can add to the experience.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the OpEx, right? The OpEx piece of that. It's just not CapEx. Right?
No, it's across the board. Anyway, sorry, we could go on forever. I know, and I said I was going to talk a lot on it, and I did. Sorry.
Come on, Gimbal.
Sorry. All right, let's jump into. Now I got the rhythm down. I know this is Will. Let's jump into the old VMware Ripcord.
I'm gonna hit this very quickly. You'll probably talk more than I will, Matt, on this point. But this is a gratuitous plug for a Forbes piece that I recently published. And what I wrote about was for those VMware customers that are looking for an alternative migration path, how network and data observability solutions can help them on that journey. And so in the Forbes article, talk about that. I highlight Cisco and Gigamon, and I also did some research and make some recommendations. You put your eyes on this as well. Mm-hmm. So this is a gratuitous plug for that Forbes article. It is somewhat controversial, but I mean, what are you hearing these days? Because, when Broadcom acquired VMware, and call it value extraction, call it whatever you want, there were reports that licensing fees doubled, quadrupled, went up 5, 6, 8, 10-fold. Mm-hmm. And customers were sort of stuck in a tough spot, right? Because they built their infrastructure, they built all of their strategy around VMware. So, I mean, what do you think here?
Mr. Provocative, huh?
Yeah,
so this is a good topic. So look, and by the way, observability, it's not just a ripcord, it's a VMware rationalization as well. You want to improve your VMware environment and lower your cost.
Absolutely. Good point. Yeah. And I point that out too.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing here. So one of the best things that happened from the Broadcom acquisition of VMware to me is this understanding, this awakening from IT that we got to look at modernization. We got to modernize what we got, whether that is we stay on VMware and upgrade to VCF9 and we kind of find ways to rationalize our deployment and really kind of lower our cost, or we go to another platform. Mm-hmm. There's every IT person I speak with is looking at modernization. Yeah. And the further up the stack you go, or the further up the segment stack you go, the more tied they are to VMware because of all of the connective tissue and the dependency that have been built over years. The further down, the easier it is to extract. But that observability really matters more and more as you go up. I just want to what you're saying on this, Will.
Yeah.
AWS at reInvent announced a service called Q Developer for Modernization. And one of the use cases they hit on is you have an on-prem VMware environment and you want to modernize. You want to take that VMware environment, you want to migrate away, and you want to migrate up to the cloud in a cloud native environment. This Q Developer is like their version of Copilot, right? Mm-hmm. Q Developer will go down into your environment. It'll look at all of your network mappings, look at all your settings, all of your dependencies, codependencies, look at your VMware environment. It'll come back to you and say, this is what we found. And if you want to upgrade, if you want to take your VMware environment, you want to move up to AWS, you want at the same time modernize your workloads, click this button. Click a button, it'll take your VMware environment. It's the easy button. Now, is it 100%? No. But even if it gets you there 80% of the way there,
that's big.
It would cut years off your migration.
Yeah.
So you're hitting on something that a lot of companies are starting to look at more and more. I'm sure Azure is going to have a Copilot that does this.
Yeah.
And GCP will have something. But this is a big deal. And that observability is critical. If you can't look deeply into your environment and understand kind of where you are and assess where you are today.
And the interdependencies, because it's so complex, right?
Yeah. There's no way, if you don't know where you are, you don't know how to get to where you want to go, right? So this is critical to understanding where that starting point is. Yeah. So I didn't mean to hijack your topic.
No, I knew that you'd want to weigh in on that. So hey, and thanks for fact checking my article, so I didn't say anything stupid from a computer.
I didn't say anything stupid. I just did. I said it was actually accurate.
When I told Pat I was working on this, Pat's ears went up, because he spent some time with Hawk Tan and that team. But hey, listen, I mean, this is something that's on the minds of a lot of folks, and I felt it was important to write about it. So again, my gratuitous plug, go hit my social media channels and read up on it. Get the number of clicks up for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and just the last thing. Just to repeat one last thing, and that is, this is not just a migrate away from VMware. This is a optimize your VMware environment as well. There are a lot of paths with this. So
absolutely.
Anyway, all right. This next one sounds like it's kind of a horror movie, title of a horror movie.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
What I see.
Well, hey, Matt, let me just share this with you. So I've been traveling the last couple of weeks. I know you have too. And there have been a lot of new movies that are on the American Airlines entertainment page that are like about AI and like it becoming evil, know? So I was thrilled to see Paul's sensational headline for this particular subject.
Yeah, this has a very I'm in your house kind of feel to it. But let's see what Paul has to say.
Well, this has to do with Copilot vision, so that you can have AI that looks at, you got something up on your screen, Microsoft Edge, it's like a second pair of eyes for you. It'll scan and analyze and provide insights on whatever web pages that you've got up. It helps with planning, shopping, all kinds of things. So it sounds like a simple thing, but I think it's pretty interesting. I think it'll have a lot of ramifications. I haven't tried it yet, but the early feedback, I guess, is pretty good. It had a bunch of impartial testers. It prioritizes privacy and copyrights and gives feedback, and I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a success. I mean, it's just kind of natural.
Mm-hmm. Is there a point where it becomes invasive, Paul?
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you've got pretty much control over it, and I think you can probably set limits on what you want it to do.
Oh, that's cool. So, that's very cool.
I think it'd be really. I mean, I would like to have it.
Have you? And correct me, I didn't hear this, so forgive me, but you said this is available now, or this is something that's coming out?
It's available for testing right now. It hasn't been released.
Okay.
Standing out.
Man, it's crazy to me, like how much our lives are going to change over the next even just couple of years.
Yeah.
As AI starts to hit its potential and stride. It's kind of, scary is not the right word, but I don't think, it almost is science fiction-y how different life is going to be for us.
Yeah, the whole agental, I guess that's a new term that's been coined, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agentic AI and kind of you just sit back and.
Agents are going to be neat.
Mm-hmm.
I want as many as I can get.
Yeah.
Plus, Trump is very pro AI. So
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's great.
yeah.
I got
To make AI great again. Let's not get political. Like, let's not go there. But
I was just doing my dance. I wanted to put on the YMCA.
Hey, hold on. I gotta let my animal out here.
Aw. My animal was at dog camp.
Executive assistant. All right, Kimball,
You call
take
it
us
your
on.
animal. All right, you call it your
Take us
animal.
on.
I call my dog my son. All right. Moving on to the final. Storage is cool again. All
No,
right.
I don't believe that for a moment.
I know you don't. And that's why you'll never be a true nerd. So I've been working on a number of projects and it struck me like how fundamental, this is going to sound like stating the obvious, but how fundamental storage is to everything, yet how we don't, while we know that kind of mentally or logically, we don't fully get it. I was having a conversation with Pat a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, about a project we're working on. And he said, do you really think that storage is the foundation to modernized infrastructure? He said, you really believe that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you're crazy. But I'm not. So it's pretty basic, right? Everything we do today is data driven. Your
Mm-hmm.
ability
Storage is like the bedrock of IT,
Yes. Yeah. And you can have the fastest servers with the best accelerators, and you can have the best networking equipment on the market, and you can have the best software stacks. But if you're running on a storage environment that is old and outdated, it is the lowest common. It's a basic engineering principle, right?
Yeah.
The lowest common denominator, the lowest performing part, is going to limit what your overall performance looks like. And a lot of companies are investing in a lot of things around AI or data analytics, and they're overlooking storage, right?
Yeah.
Which is
They were overlooking networking for a long
I
time.
think that's right. Actually, with AI and data centers they're transformed. They're not like your grandfather's data center. You need something that's flexible, performant, future-proof, because things evolve really fast right now.
Yep.
And
AI is going to give way to something else. And there are companies out there. Vast is out there, and Vast, they kind of run away from being a storage company, and with good reason. They're focusing a lot on data management, but there's a storage back end to what they do as well. But you've got Pure out there that does an amazing job with enterprise kind of storage. You've got software-defined storage out there, companies like Lightbits that do this, that have very innovative software-defined block storage. They do NVMe over IP, so you get like faster scale and like incredible performance for things like transaction processing. The reason I bring this up is, while if you're an IT folk person speaking to it or listening to us, and you're looking at kind of how you're modernizing, and I'm thinking enterprise IT, the data center operators get this, but you enterprise IT folks, really think hard about, when you're looking at modernization, kind of where you're starting from and what those building blocks are. If you're not starting with what I call the plumbing, which is the networking and the storage, then you're doing a huge disservice to your organization, and you're never going to really reach the potential you could.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. Yeah. I was just saying, I kind of spoke over Paul earlier, but, the focus has been on compute for obvious reasons with GPU and NPU and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then networking was sort of the second thought. And now companies like HPE, in my opinion, are taking a real leadership role with respect to focusing on networking. And you could argue, you know, Lenovo and Dell and others are doing, you know, adequate jobs. But yeah, I mean, storage, yeah, it's interesting. You know, that's where data resides, right? And data is used to, you know, for training and inference, and it's important. So
Long live storage.
yes. All right.
Okay.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool again, Matt. I'll agree.
Thank you. That makes me feel better. Knowing that you think it's cool is just
Thank
kind
you.
of. Paul, can I get your affirmation as well, please? Validation.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Moving on to the last, getting to know us. So we're doing the Christmas edition. I got a little kind of Paul-esque in my title with Ghost of Christmas Past, right?
Yeah.
Kind of a nod to Christmas Carol. So here's the prompt for you guys. Tell me the most memorable Christmas you can think of in your lives. If you need time to think, I can go first. Or if you want me to wait, I can go. Who wants to raise your hand if you want to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
Something came to me, Matt, when you mentioned this before we started recording. So I'll make it really, really quick. So I think I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I have a younger brother, Carl. He's the smart one in the family. He's a CPA and he's a controller for a startup here in Austin. But I remember one Christmas, we were a blended family. So my dad had remarried, and so we had, you know, gifts coming from different, you know, family members, and probably not a lot of coordination. But anyway, long story short, we started opening gifts from other family members, and I opened mine, and it's like a fire truck, right? Super cool. My brother opens his first one, and it's a hat. It's a cowboy hat. It's like, okay. Go to my second one. I open it up. It's something really cool. Like, I don't know, like maybe Star Wars or something. My brother opens up his second one. It's another hat. This is no joke. When we were done unwrapping the gifts from, you know, kind of the other, you know, families, my brother had 4 hats and was crying. I guess I was 8, he was 6. And so I remember like my mom and dad forcing me to like do a tradesy with him. So I got one of his hats and he got one of my cooler toys. And I don't know why that's, you know, remained and stuck on the hard drive, but yeah, when you mentioned this, it just came to me. So.
I love that. So
sorry, Carl. Sorry that you got gypped, you know, when you were 6 years old.
So you took joy in his getting gypped up, though. Huh?
I actually, because you know, when you're 8 years old, you take joy in the misery of your siblings, right?
Heck yeah. When you're the youngest, it's a survival technique.
Oh,
yes,
for sure. I was lucky because I was the oldest. So.
Paul, what do you got?
I think I was about the same age. I think I was maybe 9 or 10. I think I wanted most of my life, I would have given up just about anything for a chemistry set.
Of course.
And my parents, I knew they had a hiding thing, you know, around Christmas time. But anyway, when it came time to open up my present, I mean, I was pretty excited, but I wasn't as excited as probably they thought I should be, because the package was kind of, it looked like it had been wrapped at the zoo. And then when I unwrapped it and opened up my, you know, little folding metal chemistry set, my dad said, "Geez, it looks like somebody's been using this." So I wonder if they gave us a used set. They knew I had broken into the vault and played with it beforehand. So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome.
I thought I was really being cool, you know.
Why are we not surprised that Paul wanted a chemistry set?
Oh, you didn't want one? I had, oh man, that was my favorite gift ever, was my chemistry set.
I envisioned mushroom clouds popping up from our backyard. I was really disappointed because I couldn't make anything really explosive.
Paul, did you have a George Washington moment when your dad said that?
No, I thought I was clever enough to avoid that. Yeah, I was dumb enough to think that.
You should have turned it around. You should have been like, "Did you buy me a used one?"
Yeah.
Hey, maybe next year I'll share with you guys how I found out there was no longer a Santa Claus.
You can tell it real quickly. This will be good.
Okay, real quick. So I guess it was a couple years later. I wanted this big Jim action set. It was like he was like the male model version of G.I. Joe, and I wanted this like ski set, and it's like this very elaborate like snow ski thing. And so I open it up. I'm super excited. My dad's putting it together, and at one point, my dad leans over to my mom and goes, "Hey, remind me to send Santa a note that I no longer want to be putting together complicated toys on Christmas Day." And it's like, Dad, are you freaking kidding me? There's no Santa.
Meltdown. And I've been in therapy ever since.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Matt, you share. Your time to share.
All right, so mine's a weird one. But I honestly, Paul, my chemistry set was my favorite gift ever. And man, I loved looking under the microscope at kind of salt crystals. And anyway, all right. So it was 1983, my senior year of high school. My sisters and I'm the youngest of 5, and my 2 older brothers were in the service at the time. My sisters and I went to Mass. We went to my grandmother's to see her after, and we got a phone call from my oldest brother who was in California that said, "Hey, I want to let you know." This isn't funny, but it kind of is. The house is on fire, and I've lost everything. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're in California. You're calling us to tell us that the house had burned down. So we lived in a triple decker. It's a Boston style apartment.
Yeah.
It's big, and it's got 6 families living in it. And they're old, and they're for poor people. There's no nice way to put it, right?
Yeah.
So they're outdated, and they're not well kept. And so the wiring of this triple decker was, it was from the 1800s or late 1800s, early 1900s. And apparently something in the wall caught, and the entire house or the tenement burned down, and we were homeless for like 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
True story. No, it's kind of funny, right? Because it's like, wait a minute, you're 3,000 miles away, and you're calling me to tell me. So what had happened was his friend lived around the corner from us.
Yeah.
And he called my brother, who in turn called us. You want to know the irony in all of this? My dad's a firefighter in that same city, and they were maybe 2 blocks away from us.
Oh my.
Yeah.
And y'all were at church when it caught on fire.
Yeah, my mom wasn't. So my mom didn't call us. She was at home.
Okay.
But she had no way to call us. There was no cell phones back in 1983.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so my dad is there putting out the fire where his kids and ex-wife lived. And yeah, how's that for a fun story, huh?
I think I'm going to go drink some spiked eggnog now.
Hey, Will. That's when I found out there was no Santa Claus.
Well, I bet. I mean, for me, it was Big Jim. For you, it was like your home burning down. That. Oh my God.
It was the heat miser. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible. You always one up us on these things.
That is a 100% true story. And if any of my siblings watch this, they will be able to, which they don't. They would.
We should have a how poor were you?
How poor were we? Oh, you don't want to know. You want to know how poor we were? We would boil in the winter, and this is in Boston in the winter. We would boil water on the stove to get warm water for baths because we didn't have any oil. So we had no heat. We had no hot water.
Wow.
We were that poor. You want to one-up me on that one, Polly?
I can one up you, I think.
You didn't have an indoor plumbing?
Just about. It was down the hall. We lived in my address when I was young was 1510 High Street. High Street is now Martin Luther King Drive. We were 1 block away from the Black University.
Hi, HPC.
My best friend used to be a little black kid that lived down the street. I thought he was rich because he had a house. Yes. And one day I went to see him, play with him, and he just cracked open the door, and he said, My mom said I can't play with white trash anymore. And that was the end of my friendship.
I think my relatives said that to me at some point.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel guilty now for living in a middle class, household.
Yeah, well, you want to tell us about the 4 hats you got for Christmas?
Yeah, and the 4 cowboy hats I got for Christmas. But my dad was actually born in Brazil on the banks of the Amazon River. It's a long story, and his father worked for the government, not very wealthy, and so, but my grandfather was determined to send both of my uncles and my dad and my aunt to the States so they could get an education and they could
Wow.
they could move up in the world. And so yeah
That is very cool. Anyway, all right, we're going to end on this note because we can go down a really interesting path, but we're not going to. Listen, before we close out, if you liked what we talked about, please, or you like the podcast or just think Paul's a really cool guy, hit the like button, subscribe.
Yeah.
If you don't, come on back for the next one. It'll be better, I promise, although this was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And lastly, again, don't take anything we say as financial advice or trading advice. If you do, we're the least of your problems. You've got a lot of internal problems you got to deal with. Hope you all have a wonderful Hanukkah, happy Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, whatever your beliefs are and whatever your celebration is. We hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Happy New Year, and we'll see you guys in 2025.
See you in 25.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You too, Matt.
Yeah.